So good afternoon and welcome to our third webinar about Microsoft Teams. We're super excited to have you all on this webinar for how Microsoft Teams can support your business continuity, help companies work remotely. I'd like to do some quick introductions here just so you know who's speaking. My name is John Hoyt. I'm the Solutions Architect here at TMC. I am the functional and technical resource for our sales team, as well as providing overall kind of guidance and advice to the consulting and implementations team. I've been with TMC for 13 years now in the role of solutions consultant, and I've been working with ERP systems and the Microsoft products for a little over 25 years now in total. My colleague Brett Hensley is on the line with me. He is our Vice President of Sales and Marketing, and he'll be answering the chat or taking down questions for me to try to answer either at the end or as follow-up. Quick housekeeping items. First of all, again, thank you for joining us today. We hope all of you and your loved ones are safe and feeling well. We know this is a hard time for many on both a personal and a professional level, so TMC just wants to offer our best wishes to everyone. Question number one on every webinar we do, yes, this webinar is being recorded. We will send out a link after the call is completed so that you can rewatch everything we've taught you about using Microsoft Teams today, and also share the recording with the rest of your employees and your company. You are muted. If you have questions, please insert them into the chat. We'll try to answer the questions as we can on the call today. Otherwise, we'll make sure to reach out to you directly to answer them after the webinar. We are using Zoom today for the webinar. That was simply to make sure that anybody that wanted to attend and was not yet on Teams is now on Teams. Will soon be joining anyway. This will probably be the last webinar we're going to do on Zoom. Moving forward, we'll do everything on Teams. And from that point forward, that's where we're going to keep things. So, well, welcome to the new world, guys. Just as a quick reminder, if you do not yet have Teams as part of your Office 365 subscription, Microsoft is offering a free 6-month trial of Teams available to anybody. You can sign up through TMC, and we'll have a slide with some info on that promo towards the end of the presentation. I do want to mention that at the beginning here in case anybody has to drop off early. We have a great mixture of attendees on our call today. We have both current TMC clients. Some of you have been with us for many, many years and will own many of the products you see here on the right-hand panel. Things like Microsoft Office 365 and Teams, or some of the Dynamics ERP and CRM solutions, maybe the Azure hosting services where we do your infrastructure in the cloud. We also have many companies who are in the process of having their discovery calls, demos, and assessments with TMC over these same products. And finally, we have some brand new people on the call who've never worked with TMC before, and we'd like to say welcome to all of you. Just a real quick overview of who TMC is for all of those that are new to us, and for those of you who aren't aware of all the support and services we provide. TMC is a Microsoft Gold certified partner headquartered in Los Angeles, but we have people scattered all across the country. We've been doing work from home for a number of years now at TMC. We are experts on the Microsoft Dynamics ERP and CRM, and that's where our roots are. But we can also provide support to our clients with all the other Microsoft Cloud business solutions, including Office 365, Power BI, Power Apps, and the Microsoft Azure Cloud Services. Many customers are going through the digital transformation journey right now, so TMC helps provide those services to support our clients as they make that transition. This call today, this webinar, along with working remotely and using Teams, that's just part of the puzzle. But if you're interested in or need support with any of the other solutions mentioned on this page, please feel free to reach out to us. With that out of the way, I quickly want to recap our first 2 webinars for those who either missed them, and the recordings again are available, and then we'll go over the agenda for today. So on our first agenda, we really talked about just what are the basics of working from home, and that's Real simple things. Define your workspace, dress the part, set yourself a schedule, etc. Treat it as best you can like what you were working with. Quick illustration of probably not the ideal workspace. Way too many distractions going on here. And again, if you can, try to carve out some private workspace and then clock in, clock out. Treat it just like the job. In our second Teams webinar, we started talking about how to get functional with Teams. That's where we go over how to create your teams themselves, how to set up a channel or multiple channels underneath that team, and how to establish both public and private meetings in the Teams environment. Your Teams environment is designed to allow you to personalize it. We showed you how to add new tabs in, how to add connectors to third-party applications. We can talk about some of the applications or the bots that we can use to extend the Teams environment and do things like see if all of my colleagues are available, check people's schedules, and report back when we might be able to get together on something. We talked about your options for document storage. There's a variety of those, and OneDrive is something that Microsoft is working furiously to get added. But you can use SharePoint, you can use a cloud-based solution, either out of the Microsoft portfolio or some of the other Azure or cloud-based storage solutions. And finally, we talked about how Teams is designed to allow you to collaborate on whatever device and in whatever environment you happen to find yourself. So there are clients for the Teams suite, for your laptop, for your tablet, for your cell phone. We are operating system and device agnostic. They're available. Use them in whatever tool makes the most sense for you. For today's agenda, we want to talk about how you can use Teams to really support your remote workers. And a lot of that is kind of a recap of what we've already done, but we'll add a couple more details in there. A large topic of interest lately has been the telephoning capabilities within Microsoft Teams. And I want to talk about what is involved and what is required if you want to set up that function inside Teams. For those that had adopted Skype for Business previously, the early adopters into the collaborative tools that Microsoft provides, I want to talk a little bit about making the transition from Skype for Business to the Teams model. Microsoft has announced that Skype for Business will be going to end of life next year, and I have some more details about that. And then the real purpose and the real benefit, I hope, to all of you today, the more resources and training for admins, well, instead of putting it in one big block at the end, you will see as I go through this presentation that there are going to be links and references to a whole variety of tools and documentation and training that Microsoft has made available for Teams. The presentation I'm going through today will be available as a PDF. I don't know if we're going to put that up on the website directly, or you can email me, or you can email Brett. Our emails will be up at the end of this. And ask for a copy of today's webinar as a PDF. Within that PDF, all of my links should be live and working and take you directly to the appropriate resource, all of them within the Microsoft world for you. First thing about supporting the remote workers with Teams, of course, is get them on the mobile devices. Make sure they've got Teams with them where they go. If you need to get hold of somebody, I don't want the excuse to be, oh, I was out doing whatever, getting some fresh air, getting some sunshine, getting lunch, didn't see you. Well, we can put it on their smartphone. We can put it on their tablet. They'll have access to it. All of which goes along with the idea of we want Teams to help you and your coworkers be prepared. And one of the ways we can do that is, again, getting everybody involved and making sure they've got the tools that they need. Okay. For the admins out there, a couple key things to remember. Let's start with, first off, making sure everybody has access to Teams. You may already have Microsoft Office 365 licenses that include Teams that you're not using, or you may want to sign up for the free 6-month offer. If you have any questions about that, you can reach out to Brett and we can assist you in determining what you have available or help you get signed up for the free offer if that's going to be the place for you to start. And if you already have those subscriptions, just make sure it's turned on for everybody. That's one of your roles as the admin inside Office 365. And then there's a lot of information available in our previous webinars, as well as through this meeting and live events links that will help you learn the basics of creating the team, create the channel, create the meeting, invite everybody, open the meeting, set the restrictions, etc. As you're getting ready to get Teams rolled out for your company, Microsoft has a lot of information ready to go for you in what we call the Customer Success Kit. That includes email templates to announce that Teams is now going to be available, to announce the countdown to your first activity, send out the tips and tricks email to make sure the end users are able to jump in quickly and get the most benefit they can out of your adoption of Teams. We have videos that you can download and share that will introduce people to the basics of doing Teams. Again, Microsoft's going to provide a wealth of information for you, and each one of these links will take you into those. As the admin, we've got some additional resources, whether it's FAQs, whether it's blog posts, whether it's PDF documents. Your responsibilities as an admin and your enthusiasm, your diligence, your effort in becoming the admin for your team is going to go a long way towards realizing how much or how little your company is really going to get out of this. The more work that we as admins put into getting things set up, whether that's just the introductions or creating the first teams and the first channels, or doing the research on the various apps and bots that are available, or maybe your company is going to make the decision to push forward and you're going to be the point person on doing the telephony integrations. The more you put in, the more that your system will grow, the more your company is going to get out of it. We want to make sure that we're providing you with the resources you need to do that. One of the hot topics around the idea of work from home right now, and there are some products that are taking a lot of heat for being relatively insecure. Microsoft wants to give you confidence that you can then share with your colleagues and your coworkers. We are a secure system. You can set up private meetings. You can lock people out that were not invited. The URLs that we're going to be sharing look like randomly generated letters and numbers. We're not going to provide a clear path for anybody to find your work inside of Teams. If you have anybody in your company, any of your executives or owners that have questions about that, we want to make sure that they have information in their hands that will give them that comfort that they can adopt Teams and know that it's going to be secure. Okay, let's move on and talk about making calls with the Teams system. Out of the box, we support voice over internet protocol for the Teams client to Teams client. So I can simply pull up one of my contacts in Teams, I can pull up their record, I can hit call, and just using VoIP, I'll have a direct Teams client to Teams client call. However, if you need to make calls to somebody who's not within the Teams world, and there will be those out there that resist for a variety of reasons, we're going to give you two options for how you can make, receive, transfer calls to and from landlines, mobile phones, etc., on what we refer to as a public switched telephone network. Now, this is the phone system we're all familiar with from the house, where you pick up the phone and hear the dial tone, or maybe you have a PBX-based phone inside the company or something. The traditional wired, I got to talk to AT&T or Verizon kind of phone system, that's the publicly switched telephone network. And with Teams, you're going to be getting the option to set up plans where Microsoft can provide the phone numbers that you're going to use, or with a tool called Direct Connect, we can take your existing PSTN system and we can connect that to what's called a session border controller to Microsoft Teams. That's going to allow the Teams interface to now support the basic phone system features and functions. Answer calls, make calls, switch calls to somebody else, put them on hold, etc. By enabling the calling feature in Teams, either through the Microsoft offering or through Direct Connect to your existing provider, that same functionality now gets rolled into the Teams function. I've included a link here for the Microsoft 365 roadmap. That Microsoft 365 roadmap will go into greater detail about what is going to be coming over the future period of years, when they expect to have that information rolled out, etc. And for those that are using the Skype for Business function currently, I do want to point out that the phone system feature set there in Skype for Business is different than what we currently have available inside of Teams. Okay, so again, on that public roadmap, this is where we're going to be able to see the details and what they call the calling roadmap slide, what's going to be coming for this feature, when they're going to roll it out, etc. There's a link here that gives you a full description of everything that's included in those new feature sets. At the time that we're doing this, some of those features might only be available in Skype for Business, but it is Microsoft's intention to bring all of that feature set over into Teams as soon as they can get that through their process. One thing I want to point out here for those that are thinking about something like calling 911 here in the US, or if you have an emergency service calling function in your country that is similar to 911, you're no longer dialing in from a landline number or a mobile phone number. So we're going to have to provide some additional help so that those on the other end of the call will understand where you are, because the number that you get from Microsoft, for example, may not be one that's local to you, depending on how impacted or how many numbers are available in your area. So the phone system capability is basically available anywhere Office 365 is available, and that is quickly becoming pretty much global. Now, with the phone system, you're also going to need a calling plan. And the calling plan is what you use to actually pay for the minutes you're going to use to make calls, etc. Just like you have a calling plan with your cell phone provider, you're going to have a calling plan here with the Teams environment as well. So what's available in terms of phone system and calling plans will depend where your organization is based, most importantly, which country or region, the organization that you've got a commercial relationship with Microsoft and its partners. So there's kind of a triangulation here that's required. Microsoft, the public side of the telephone providers, and you and your partners. Those calling plans can be assigned and used within the country where the calling plans are available. So the ability to dial to other countries in and out is going to be restricted to those calling plans. And again, there are going to be restrictions placed around that. This is probably the key slide that a lot of people have been waiting for, and that's how do we license phone system within Office 365 and Teams. I'm going to try to summarize here. If you have questions and you want a deeper follow-up, reach out to Brett. He'll be happy to go through the details of the different Office 365 plans. But essentially, you need to be on an Office 365 Enterprise subscription plan. With the E1 and E3 subscription plans, phone system is an add-on service. If you're on the E5 subscription plan, it's already available to you. You may not have it enabled, and you'll need to go through those steps. But if you're an E5 subscription plan, there won't be any additional costs. If you're on E1 or E3, again, those are available as an add-on service. The calling function, the phone system, is not available if you're on any of the kind of standard Microsoft Business, Home, individual user. You have to be on an enterprise plan. Okay, so once we have the E1, E3, or E5 license, we've added in the phone system, then we're going to add in those calling plans. And there are typically two types of calling plans. This allows me to, again, to determine, is it going to be a domestic calling plan? I'm only going to talk to people within my country, or do I need an international and domestic calling plan? So Office 365 enterprise level subscription with the phone system feature enabled, and then a subscription to a calling plan, either domestic calling plan or international and domestic calling plan. And very much like your cell phone, then each calling plan has an allocation of minutes. Each user can use so many per month for the either domestic or domestic and international calls that they're doing. Pricing is as you would expect. Domestic only plans cost less than the global plans. You can assign different users to different plans. That is, within my setup, I can have a domestic calling plan that I use for the majority of my employees, and a second separate international and domestic calling plan that maybe my executives and my international buyers use because they're dealing with sourcing products from around the globe or something. This is one of the rare places inside the Microsoft world where you can kind of mix and match. There won't be a requirement that everybody be on international and domestic if that's what you need. Okay. When you're implementing the phone system, everybody's going to get a unique subscriber phone number assigned to them. These are typical phone numbers like you'd find for a landline. Microsoft has a list of phone numbers available that they can allocate to you. You can take some of the times, in some cases, your existing phone numbers can be transferred, what we call ported, over to Microsoft and then assigned back to you. That would give you the option of retaining the phone numbers that you're currently using. This is not a simple or easy process, and if you are anticipating going down this road, be prepared to spend some time going back and forth with Microsoft people, because your organization may want phone numbers for 50 people and you want them to all have the same area code and the same prefix. And Microsoft may need to search for a little while to find a block of 50 phone numbers that meet those requirements. So again, expect that this part of the process is going to be time consuming. It will not go quickly. Referencing back to my earlier point about the interactions with your 911 or emergency services provider, when you set up each user and you give them the phone number that's been assigned to them, you're also going to need to assign an emergency address for that phone number. Okay. We need that address to support emergency services calling. We're going to try to validate that the address has been recognized, it's in the correct format for emergency response services to use. That's key to making sure that people have access to 911 or emergency services, that link between the user and their unique address. Voicemail is available as part of the calling function in Teams. This is provided by Azure Voicemail Services. So we will deposit a recording of a voicemail, will go directly to the Exchange mailboxes, but Exchange mailboxes only. We do not support sending a voicemail recording to a non-Exchange email system. And by default, we're going to work with Exchange Online. We are trying to get everybody to do the online services. There is, however, some minimum support if you're still on Exchange on-premise. And we can give you some follow-up on what the differences are between those. Quick note, cloud voicemail can include voicemail transcription, which is enabled for everybody by default. So when the email arrives with the recording, there'll also be a automated transcript that goes along with that. You can choose to disable that if you want, either for specific users or for everybody throughout the organization. A couple of optional things, caller identity. So caller ID, inbound and outbound, you can see by name and phone number. There are some instances where you may choose to mask that caller, and that can be done if required. Dial plans are another option that you can set up. This is a phone system feature of Office 365 that allows the user to dial numbers directly from the dial pad. So the keyboard on the number pad on the keyboard. There's a unique protocol that we need to follow in order to do that. That would allow people to just key in the numbers that they want to use. You can also, of course, add people to the contacts and dial them directly out of your contacts. If you're currently on Skype for Business and you're considering making the switch to Teams, there's some key things that you need to consider. Your options for connecting Teams to those publicly switched telephone networks are a little different than what we did in Skype for Business Online. While the calling plans exist for both, the option for connecting your existing phone system or PBX or trunk system to Teams, we're going to call it direct routing. And I apologize, the link didn't copy there. I can add that. There should be a link to that phone system direct routing for the information on how to make that. There are also some key feature differences between Skype for Business and Microsoft Teams. I'm going to go through a couple of quick slide shots of those in just a moment. But a key takeaway here is don't assume just because one of the clients is capable of something, say Skype for Business has a feature or a function, it may not automatically be available, or the availability may not be identical to what you have between the two different systems. You can use either Teams or Skype for Business, but you cannot do both in terms of receiving calls. Once you've made the decision to migrate from Skype for Business Online and the calling function there to the Teams calling function, you're no longer going to be able to use that Skype system. So we'll need to kind of plan out which one you want to adopt ultimately, and then when we're going to make that transition from one system to the next, we can go through those. So what's different between Skype for Business and Teams? On the left-hand side is the Skype for Business. On the right-hand side is the Teams functionality. So you can see in terms of chat, we've added a couple of things. The two at the bottom I want to point out as being really helpful in a workplace environment. That is, Teams does threaded and what we call persistent conversations. Your chat is available, it's archived, you can search through it, and we keep them as basically running dialogues. And then again, within that chat stream will allow you to search for files, for content, for other people. Skype, with its chat, you could chat back and forth, but they were new chats sometimes, and you couldn't link them, you couldn't search them, you couldn't find them, etc. In terms of meetings, there's a couple of key functions that are added. Again, we're going to do that persistent chat as part of the meeting in Teams. You created a new meeting, you went to the calendar and set it up, you invited people. When the meeting's opened and people chat, either before, during, or after your meeting, Teams will hold on to that information. You'll be able to, again, search through that, add the files, look for people. Call function, mobile function, basically the same between the two systems there. couple of other things that you can do with the Teams system that you cannot do with Skype: the ability to create channels, add additional functionality or files or tabs inside of those. Teams is fully integrated inside Office, so I can have access to Teams and its content and the people I work with inside the Teams interface, but also inside Outlook, or I'm inside Excel and I want to collaborate with a teammate. I can do that in Teams that I cannot do inside of Skype for Business. And again, the apps, the bots, the other extensions of the product, what's available today, what's going to be added in the future. And finally, that ability to do an name, at John, at Brett, at somebody, will basically send them an alert, a notification, because they've been mentioned somewhere. We want to make sure that they know about it so we can start to, again, tie people together. So there are a number of significant advantages with Teams over Skype for Business. I have spent a lot of time, obviously, in Teams lately, and it really, to me, seems like everything that Skype for Business promised to do, and then for a variety of reasons either didn't do very well or didn't do at all, Microsoft has really kind of got their act together, and that function, that feature set, it is available inside of Teams. Clean, simple interface, every device you want to use. So many reasons, I think, why we need to make that transition from Skype for Business into the Teams world. And of course, coming along with that is Microsoft's planned retirement. End of July next year, 2021, Skype for Business Online will no longer be accessible or supported. While they're going to continue to fully support Skype for Business Online through that date, Microsoft and those of us here at TMC as well, it's time, guys, to start making that upgrade journey. Let's start planning it out, getting the resources that you need, do the license verifications, etc., and get that transition off of Skype for Business and get that over onto the Teams world. With that, Microsoft is going to do everything they can to make that transition a success for you. There is dedicated training, dedicated plan material available for you at the link here on the bottom of this slide to help you both plan, prepare, and then actually go through the transition. And of course, TMC, as a Microsoft Gold Certified partner, we can help you if you want to reach out to us as you start to consider making that transition out of Skype for Business into the Teams environment. So let me wrap this up with my top tips, and I haven't changed these as we've gone through the webinars. They still apply just like they did at the end of the first webinar. There's nothing that you can do that will help you more than dive into Teams and play with it, get used to it. Practice, practice, practice. Especially for those that are getting their feet wet for the first time. If you're going to have a meeting with your entire company, and this is something you've not done before with Teams, I would strongly suggest you do a practice run with a couple of your coworkers and just get used to being an admin, used to hosting a meeting, where the controls are, how to mute people or turn on video, etc. The next 2 points really kind of relate, in my view, as much to the Teams environment as well as simply the new work from home environment that many of us find ourselves being forced into in many cases, which is don't try to use the minimal contact. If you can make a phone call, do that instead of chatting with somebody. Again, my kind of tip on this has always been, and my coworkers know this well, if we're starting to have the third or fourth sentence back and forth in a chat conversation, you can pretty well count that I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling, because I don't want to chat. There's this much information going back and forth. Now, it's been pointed out to me that the chat actually provides a good record, and there may be some reasons to memorialize things in the chat. But in terms of keeping contact with your colleagues, of staying in close mental contact, even though we can't be in close physical contact. Do a video chat, do things face to face whenever you can. And then second, or finally rather, use the best equipment that you have available. For some people, when you're doing a video chat, your cell phone may have the highest quality camera that you've got easy access to. So do your video chats on the phone. Your best audio equipment may be on your desktop machine, though. Best microphone, best speakers, etc. Use whatever combination of best equipment or devices that you have as you're using the Teams. And finally, on that note, on the Microsoft website, you can get a listing and a preview of all of the different pieces of hardware that Microsoft has reviewed and certified for Teams, including things like dedicated telephone handsets that you can plug in, headsets, speaker sets, whatever it might be. Again, as you can, try to use the best equipment that's available to you. Okay, next steps for you. If you do not yet have access to Teams, we will set you up with that free 6-month trial of what's called Office 365 Enterprise One. That is something we can help you walk through. Just reach out to us if you need any help getting signed up for that. My next steps number 2, well, this is the end of our webinar series, so it's up to you now. I've shared with you what I hope is useful information, and again, through the PDF that you can get of today's webinar, all the different links to additional training and documentation, etc. Build your team, create your channels. It's up to you now to help support those remote workers as we're physically separated from one another. Teams is designed to fill in, but Teams will only be as effective as the admins are in getting it set up and pushed out to people. Use Teams. The whole idea behind Teams is to allow us to communicate, to collaborate with one another, and you should see the results of that as we go through the next couple of weeks and months. So thank you for attending. If you have any questions or need help or support with your Teams trial or training, please feel free to reach out either to myself or to Brett Hensley, our VP of Sales and Marketing. You see our email addresses there on the screen. We hope everyone has a great day. We hope you all stay safe, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Teams very, very soon.